The Mysterious Old Radio Listening Society podcast. Welcome to the Mysterious Old Radio Listening Society, a podcast dedicated to suspense and horror stories from the golden age of radio. I'm Eric.
I'm Tim.
And I'm Joshua. We love scary old-time radio stories. There's nothing quite like a disembodied voice telling a genuinely disturbing tale. But do these stories stand the test of time, or are we being deceived by nostalgia? Are they suspenseful or forgettable? Bone-chilling or butt-numbing? That's what we're here to find out.
This week's episode is a listener suggestion. Kira writes us, "Hello, I was listening to some suspense episodes when I found this one, To Find Help. I had two versions, and I like the one with Gene Kelly and Ethel Barrymore best, but Frank Sinatra and Agnes Moorehead were on the original. As I don't know anyone who listens to OTR, I would love to hear your thoughts on the episode. Have a great rest of your day, Kira."
So that's what we're going to do. Suspenses, To Find Help. And we are going with the version starring Gene Kelly, Ethel Barrymore, and William Conrad, which aired on January 6th, 1949. Barrymore is regarded as the first lady of American theater. The original was performed by Frank Sinatra and suspense regular Agnes Moorehead, which aired on January 18th, 1945.
Sinatra starred with Kelly in the movie Anchors Away the very same year, 1945. Lux Radio Theater broadcast a 60-minute radio adaptation of the movie on December 29th, 1947, with Frank Sinatra, Gene Kelly, and Kathryn Grayson reprising their film roles. To Find Help was adapted from Mel Dinelli's stage play, The Man. The play was also adapted into the film Beware My Lovely in 1952, starring Ida Lupino and Robert Ryan. So here you go, Kira, To Find Help from Suspense.
Forget the petty distractions around you. Forget what you think you know. Forget everything but what you hear right now. It's late at night and a chill has set in. You're alone, and the only light you see is coming from an antique radio. Listen to the sounds coming from the speaker. Listen to the music, and listen to the voices.
Suspense. Tonight, Autolite co-stars Miss Ethel Barrymore and Mr. Gene Kelly in To Find Help, a suspense play produced and directed by Anton M. Leader.
Suspense, radio's outstanding theater of thrills, is presented for your enjoyment by Autolite and its 60,000 dealers and service stations. Friends, when you buy an Autolite Stay Full battery, you're not getting just another ordinary battery. No, sir, you're getting a battery that needs water only 3 times a year in normal car use. Yes, Autolite Stay Full batteries need water only 3 times a year in normal car use. Why, a camel could drink its weight in water, and a cactus could die of thirst before those tough, temperate, teetotaling Autolite Stay Full batteries would ask for an extra drop of H2O. So, friends, switch to an Autolite Stay Full battery tomorrow. Remember, you're right with Autolite. Always right with Autolite. And now Autolite presents Gene Kelly and Ethel Barrymore in a tale well calculated to keep you in
Suspense.
My roomer, Mr. Armstrong, tried to warn me that morning he left on his business trip. I remember we were just finishing breakfast, and he was rather in a hurry.
I don't care what you say, Mrs. Gillis. I just plain don't like it. You're alone here in the house all day. There are no close neighbors, and after all, you know nothing about the man.
Good gracious, Mr. Armstrong, you'd think I was a pretty young thing of 20 to hear you tell it.
And another thing, it seems very strange to me that a young man should be job hunting from door to door this day and age. Why, there are plenty of jobs to be had.
That's just why it's so difficult to find help these days. You're a worrywart, Mr. Armstrong. Now that I've found someone to do my heavy work, I'm not going to let your silly notions change my mind.
Well, all the same, though, I'm not leaving the house this morning till I get a look at the guy.
I remember I kept worrying about poor Mr. Armstrong missing his train because it was getting to be 9 o'clock. He dried the breakfast dishes for me, and as he talked, he kept looking out of the window toward the long driveway.
Hey, here he comes. What? I guess I needn't have worried.
Mr. Armstrong was smiling, for he'd seen my young man who was coming up the driveway, and I smiled, too. Even I had forgotten what a meek, harmless-looking lad he was. Why, he would hardly be called a man at all, I thought.
So that's the critter who's been causing me all this mental anguish.
There, you see, you and your silly ideas.
Why, the little guy's not strong enough to keep a regular job, I suppose.
Why, I believe Sarah's getting some of your foolish notions, Mr. Armstrong.
There now, Sarah. Sarah, I'm sorry that we made you nervous about him. Why, if you could see the guy...
He'll hear you. Good morning, lad. I've been expecting you. This is my roomer, Mr. Armstrong. I don't believe you told me your name.
I'm Howard Wilton, ma'am.
Hello, Howard. How are you? I'm glad you've come. I know you'll be a great help to Mrs. Gillis here, and you'll be company, too. Well, I'm off, Mrs. Gillis. Take care of yourself. I don't think you'll have much trouble.
I don't think your dog likes me, Mrs. Gillis.
Of course she does. Just getting a little old and peevish.
Oh.
Come along now, Howard. I'll show you where to hang your coat.
Oh, yes. I always like to hang my coat up.
He followed me into the closet storeroom at the back of the house. And I handed him a clothes hanger and a rough, heavy apron, which I kept for cleaning help.
Is this apron clean, Mrs. Gillis?
Why, of course it's clean. No one's worn it since it was laundered last.
There are spots on it. See?
Spots? Here, let me look. Why, that's paint. No dirt and dry paint, son.
If you don't mind, I'd rather not wear it.
What will you wear, then? You didn't bring other clothes.
I'm a neat worker, Mrs. Gillis. You needn't worry about my clothes.
I turned, and the light hitting his face from the small window made him look so different. I was startled for a moment, and then I thought, you're a silly old woman, Mrs. Gillis. And then I smiled.
Are you laughing at me, Mrs. Gillis?
Why, no, son. I was laughing at myself. Come along. Let's get started now. He'd only been at the den floor a short time when I heard him walk back to the closet storeroom. Can I help you, son?
I'm going after my coat, Mrs. Gillis. I don't like it being out there in the storeroom. It's a breeding place for moths, you know.
No, son, it takes longer than that for moths to do any damage.
Mrs. Gillis, perhaps you won't think it's quite so amusing when I tell you that it's my best and only coat.
I didn't mean to hurt your feelings, lad. Where would you like to put it? In the kitchen, perhaps?
No, the cooking fumes wouldn't be good for it. I'll take it right in the den with me. That is, if you don't mind.
Go right ahead, Howard.
If you don't mind.
Suddenly, I was thankful that there was a phone. He was such a peculiar boy. I wasn't really alarmed. Not then, I wasn't. Still, it was good to know the phone was there and that old Sarah was still in the kitchen asleep. I went on about my own work that morning, but several times I went into the den to have a look at him. He wasn't doing much, I could see that. He seemed to keep polishing one small square in the corner of the room. Is there anything you need, Howard? Howard?
I won't be spied upon, Mrs. Gillis. I won't put up with that.
See here, lad, I think we must have gotten off on the wrong foot. I'm not spying on you.
Now, why do you keep popping in like that? Would you like me to go faster? Would you like me to spill out my life's blood for you here on the floor? Is that what you're after?
Howard, are you well? Are you well enough to work?
Of course I'm well. If only you'd quit bothering and pestering and questioning me. Is it too much to ask?
Howard, son, I'm interested in young men. I had 2 boys of my own. They were in the service. See, that's Bill on the desk there. He was a Marine. And on the table there, that's Dennis. He was in the infantry.
So, that's why you hate me. I see it all now.
Hate you? Why, whatever gave
Yes,
you...
you hate me. I could tell it the moment I walked into your house this morning.
But Howard...
You hate me because I'm young and I wasn't in the service like your boy.
Why, it never occurred to me. You must know I was grateful when you came looking for work.
Grateful. You resented me. The only reason you have me here is to work my life's blood away, to punish me for not being in the service, just because your sons were in the service and I wasn't.
Son, you're ill. Let's put the work away now. I'll make you a cup of tea.
Oh, you don't want me to do the job. Is that it? You're like the Army. There was a job to be done, and they wouldn't let me in. Now you'd like me to stop in the middle of this.
I only want you to do whatever will make you feel better.
Well, leave me alone, then.
Very well.
Mrs. Gillis?
Yes?
I'll tell you why I wasn't in the Army. If you insist.
I don't insist at all, Howard.
If you must know, I'll tell you. They said there was something wrong with my mind.
For suspense, Autolite is bringing you Mr. Gene Kelly co-starring with Miss Ethel Barrymore in radio's outstanding theater of thrills, Suspense.
I had a very embarrassing experience at New Year's Day dinner.
Well, what in the world happened, Harlow?
Well, the whole family was there, you see. Brothers, sisters, aunts, uncles, nieces, nephews, cousins, outlaws. In-laws. And during a lull in the conversation, I thought I'd tell them all about that wonderful abstemious Autolite Stay Full battery.
Oh, my.
So naturally, I told them about that extra-large liquid reserve of Autolite Stay Full batteries. Even the Great Lakes, said I, are no great shakes compared to the reservoir in those Autolite Stay Full batteries. Why, those batteries need water only 3 times a year in normal car use.
I'm beginning to understand.
And then, of course, I told them that Autolite Stay Full batteries give longer life than batteries without the Stay Full features. And then I explained...
Now, wait a minute, Hunter. Did you say all this at your big family dinner?
Yes, and here's the funny thing, Hap. Just as I was telling them how every smart car owner was switching to Autolite Stay Full batteries... 2 of my biggest cousins got up, came around to my chair, and carried me, chair and all, into the pantry. By Cornelius, the pantry was where I finished my New Year's dinner. Can you imagine my own relatives doing a thing like that to me?
Well, that certainly was a dirty trick, Harlow. But quiet. Here's suspense again.
And now, Autolite brings back to a Hollywood soundstage Miss Ethel Barrymore and Mr. Gene Kelly in To Find Help. A tale well calculated to keep you in suspense.
I just thought maybe you'd like to know, Mrs. Gillis. They said there was something wrong with my mind.
The first thing that I thought of when I reached the hallway was the phone. But it was in the den with Howard. I ran quickly to the back door, but it was locked, and the key wasn't in its usual place. The front door was locked, too. Then I heard a crash. It came from the den. I rushed in to find Howard peacefully polishing away at the same spot. He hadn't moved an inch. He didn't look up at me. Then I saw the phone, which had fallen to the floor beside him. But it hadn't just fallen. The wires had been torn out of the wall.
The phone, Mrs. Gillis, it fell.
But the wires...
I suppose you think I ruined your phone.
The wires...
That happened when it fell to the floor.
It
happened when it fell to the floor.
Well,
I don't suppose you'll be able to use it anymore. Not for a while, anyway.
No, I don't suppose I will. Sarah! Here! Sarah! Sarah!
Mrs. Gillis,
Yes.
are you looking for your dog?
Yes. I haven't seen her all morning. She was in the kitchen.
Well, she's not there any longer.
I know. Where is she, Howard?
Where is she?
Yes. Where is she?
She's gone.
Gone. If you've harmed her...
She didn't like me, you know.
See here. I've put up with enough. You tell me where my dog is, or...
For what, Miss Gillis? You'll do what, Mrs. Gillis? What will you do?
Sarah!
She's
Yes,
gone,
Sarah.
Mrs. Gillis. I told you that.
You've harmed my dog.
Have I?
You killed her. Poor old Sarah, who never hurt a thing.
She would have hurt me.
You're bad, Howard. You're wicked. You're a coward.
I'm not a coward, Mrs. Gillis. Cowards are afraid to kill.
Only a coward would kill a poor old dog.
If I were a coward, I'd be afraid of you. And I'm not afraid of you.
You let me out of here.
I have strong hands, Mrs. Gillis. My fingers are like steel.
I've never harmed you.
No. And Sarah didn't either, but she would have if I hadn't harmed her first.
Let me out of here.
You're getting very noisy, Mrs. Gillis. Perhaps if I locked you in here, you'd calm down a bit.
Howard! And then I heard the key turn in the lock. For a moment, I had the feeling of unreality. Was this really happening? But I found out soon enough that it wasn't a dream, for the dim light from the little square window picked up a limp, lifeless object in the corner among the dusty mops. I knew without looking further what it was. Poor Sarah. Sarah, who'd never harmed a soul. I don't know how long he kept me there. I could hear him moving about the house, but he finally came. He spoke to me through the door.
Have you calmed down, Mrs. Gillis?
Yes, Howard. Let me out.
Why?
Because it's warm in here. Because I want to get out.
You were looking for your dog, weren't you?
Never mind about that, Howard. Let me out.
Mrs. Gillis, if I kept you in there, you wouldn't be able to spy on me ever again.
I won't spy on you, Howard. Let me out.
You know what I've been doing, Mrs. Gillis?
No.
I've been doing your den floors, just like you asked me to.
That's fine, Howard.
It was fine, being able to work peacefully. Knowing that you were someplace where you couldn't bother me.
I won't bother you, Howard.
It was very peaceful. Nobody to bother me.
Let me out, Howard.
Will you promise to do as I tell you?
I promise.
Anything?
Anything.
Very well, then. Now, no tricks.
No.
Feel my hands, Mrs. Gillis. Are they nice hands?
Yes, they're nice hands.
You haven't felt them. Did your sons have as nice hands as these?
No. No, they didn't.
But they didn't have any trouble getting jobs, did they? I'm just as good as they were, you know.
Of course you are, Howard. Wouldn't you like some food, lad? You haven't eaten all day, you know.
Some food would be good.
Yeah, let me fix you some.
Mrs. Gillis, a woman I worked for once said my hands were weak.
She did.
She soon found out, however.
Here now, lad. I have some nice cold roast in the icebox.
I taught her a lesson.
It'll only take a minute to fix some salad.
Were your son's hands strong, Mrs. Gillis?
Not as strong as yours, Howard. I'll set the table right away.
Mrs. Gillis, feel my hands again. They're like steel, you know.
I finally managed to get some lunch on the table. Howard sat beside me. He didn't say much, and he ate very little. I tried to appear casual, to engage him in conversation, anything. Do you work often, Howard?
Not often.
Do you have trouble finding jobs?
People are anxious to find help these days. Weren't you?
Yes, to find help.
Mrs. Gillis? They're looking for me.
Who, Howard?
Exactly. People I worked for last, I guess.
Was that here in this town?
No, it was another town. Everyone was looking for me, so I went away. It's horrible to be spied upon, Mrs. Gillis. Do you know what it is to be spied upon?
No, I don't.
Would you like to know?
No, I wouldn't, Howard.
I think I'll spy on you the rest of the day. Then you'll know how it feels.
No, please, Howard. Whatever it is you want, take it and go away.
There's nothing I want, nothing. I only want to stay here with you.
I can't stand it, Howard. I can't. I'm an old woman. Please go away. Leave me alone.
I'm not going away, Mrs. Gillis. There's still a job to be done. I'll go away after I've done everything that's to be done.
Howard, I have some money here in the kitchen cabinet drawer. It's a great deal. I'll give it to you.
I don't want your money, Mrs. Gillis.
Then go away.
That would be foolish. Then you'd tell on me.
No, I wouldn't. Really, Howard. Go away and I'll never tell a soul that you've been here.
I don't believe you. And I don't trust you. There's only one way of being certain that you won't tell.
My heart jumped when I looked out the window. I saw it was the milkman.
Tell him to go away.
I can't. I've ordered some extra things.
Then go into the storeroom until he goes.
I can't, Howard. He knows I'm here. He'll expect me to pay him.
You promised to do as I told you.
And he pulled open the cabinet drawer. I saw him take a knife out.
Now, will you tell him to go away?
Howard, if I tell him to go, he'll think something's wrong. Then you'll get caught for sure.
All right, Mrs. Gillis. Take whatever you've ordered, but if you pull any tricks, you'll be sorry.
Just a moment.
Good afternoon, Mrs. Gillis.
Good afternoon.
A lovely day, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
Mrs. Gillis, I think I have good news for you.
You have?
Yep. Beginning of the first, the company's taking on some more help. And in the future, your deliveries will be made in the early morning.
That's nice.
I don't believe you ever did like these late deliveries, did you?
I never really minded.
If all of our customers were like you, Mrs. Gillis, it wouldn't be such a bad world. Here you are. 1 quart of milk and a pint of half and half. Goodbye, Mrs. Gillis.
The extra things, you forgot them.
The extra things?
Yes, the extra things. Now, don't tell me you've forgotten them. The eggs and the butter.
Okay, I'll get them right away.
Mrs. Gillis, I'm going to give you one more chance. When he comes back, you're to get rid of him, do you hear? And if you give me away, I'm going to kill you. I'll kill you before he can get inside this house, and I don't care what they do to me.
I won't give you away, Howard. I'll only pay him. I have to do that.
Shut up. Remember.
Here you are, Mrs. Gillis.
Thank you.
Anything else?
No, that's all.
Mrs. Gillis, I was going to say...
I'm sorry, I can't stop. I can't talk today. I'm very busy.
You're very clever, aren't you, Mrs. Gillis?
What do you mean?
You thought you were going to put something over on me, didn't you?
I sent him away, didn't I?
The extra things you ordered. There weren't any.
Yes, there were. You saw him. You heard him.
He didn't know what you were talking about.
The milkman had returned. He stood outside the window. Howard looked at me. I saw his knuckles go white as he clutched the knife.
This is your last chance. Get rid of him.
I will, Howard. I will.
I'm sorry to bother you again, Mrs. Gillis, but you forgot to pay me.
Oh.
That is, unless you want...
No, yes, I'll pay you. Here you are.
Sorry I had to bother you, Mrs. Gillis. But you see, this is the day I have to come.
Yes, I'm busy. Can't you see that I'm very busy?
Tell me when he's gone, Mrs. Gillis.
I stood by the window and watched. He got into his truck, and he drove off.
So that was your scheme, was it? So you wanted to give me away.
He's gone now, Howard.
You thought he'd save you, didn't you?
No, I sent him away like you asked me.
Do you know what would have happened to me? Do you?
No.
They would have taken me away.
Howard, leave me alone.
I'm going to punish you.
No, Howard, I've been punished enough.
No, you haven't.
Yes. He was standing very close now. I knew he still held the knife. Suddenly, everything was black. I slipped to the floor. When I came to, I was on the kitchen floor. My head throbbed. And I remembered everything. But where was he? And I heard a sound. A soft, swishing sound. Seemed like hours before I could bring myself to move. Suddenly, The hall clock began to strike. Why, it was 5 o'clock. I'd been unconscious for longer than I'd thought. The room had already turned dark in the late afternoon light, but I could see him now. He stood in the middle of the room. He was pushing my heavy floor polisher back and forth, back and forth. I tried to close the door quietly, but he looked up. He saw me.
What time is it, Mrs. Gillis?
About 5.
Well, I guess I'll call it a day now. I've done a nice job, haven't I?
Yes, Howard. Very nice.
I think I'll be going now. Doesn't it shine nicely, Mrs. Gillis?
Yes. Yes, it does.
Is it worth $5 to you?
Yes, Howard.
I have nice hands, haven't I, Mrs. Gillis?
Yes, Howard, you have. Here, take the money.
Thank you. It's a pity they have to be used to polish floors.
You've done such a good job, Howard. I'm going to give you a few extra dollars.
Thank you. You'll be needing me tomorrow, Mrs. Gillis?
No, thank you, Howard.
The door's locked, Mrs. Gillis.
Yes, Howard. Do you have the key?
Yes. Yes, I do. I just remember. I just remembered a lot of things. Mrs. Gillis, there's someone at the door.
Yes, Howard. Will you open it?
Should I?
Yes, Howard. You have the key.
I have? Is this it, Mrs. Gillis?
Yes, Howard. Open the door. Open the door, Howard. Open it.
All right, Mrs. Gillis.
I'm Mr. Stevens from the phone company. Your phone's been reported out of order.
Mrs. Gillis, is your phone out of order?
No, there must be a mistake.
That's strange. We've had several reports. Maybe I better run back and check my books.
Just a moment, Mr. Stevens. Could you do me a favor?
Well, why, certainly.
This boy...
Mrs. Gillis.
This boy, he's worked here all day. He's done a good job. But I don't think he's well.
I'm all right, Mrs. Gillis.
But you're tired. Aren't you tired, Howard? Doesn't your head ache?
Yes. Yes, I am tired. And my head does ache.
Well, maybe Mr. Stevens will be kind enough to drive you to the car line.
I'll be glad to, Mrs. Gillis, but I can't wait long.
Right away, and I'll go along, too. I have some marketing to do. And, Mr. Stevens, as long as you're here, would you mind checking the phone just to make sure?
Why, well, of course.
I'll show you where it is.
Can I show him, Mrs. Gillis?
No, Howard. You wait here. We'll be right back. I moved quickly toward the den. Mr. Stevens followed me. Once inside, I closed the door behind me. He spotted the torn wires at once.
Say, this phone.
It's that boy. That man. He's dangerous. Drive us to the police station as fast as you can.
Well,
Before he could reply, I opened the den door and went out into an empty room.
Say.
Howard! He's gone.
It sure looks that way.
No. You've got to find him.
But, Mrs. Gillis, if you were afraid
You don't
of me...
understand. He's angry with me. He wants to kill me. And now he's hiding here somewhere. When you go, he'll come out and kill me.
Oh, say then, ma'am, take it easy. You're getting yourself all worked up.
You don't believe me.
Well, look, Mrs. Gillis, maybe I better run down to the corner and phone for somebody.
No, you can't leave me. I'll go with you.
Well, sure, if it'll make you feel any better. My car's right outside in the driveway.
Yes.
Come on.
Yes, and we'll call the police. I'll come and get him.
Sure, what did he say? He looked like a nice enough young fellow, though. Are you sure that he...
Were you looking for me, Mrs. Gillis?
Oh, why, yes, Howard. I was. Are you ready to go?
Yes, I'm ready. I just thought I'd wait in the car.
Sure. All right, Mrs. Gillis. You get in the back here.
Thank you.
It's very kind of you to do this for me. I'm very tired.
Just relax, Howard. We'll take care of you.
All
Already?
Already, Mr. Stevens.
Mr. Stevens, don't you think I have nice hands?
Why, yes, I guess so.
Yes. They're strong hands, too. Very strong.
Thank you, Gene Kelly and Ethel Barrymore, for a splendid performance. Our stars will return in just a moment.
Say, Hap, I've got a wonderful New Year's resolution here.
Well, don't tell me you're resolved to give up talking, Arnold.
Give up talking? Me, Autolite, patter-packed Wilcox? Will a pistol-packing cowboy give up his gun? Will a power-packed Autolite stay full battery give up the ghost when you need it most? Not on your life, by Cornelius. No, Sir Hap. The New Year's resolution I've got is for every car owner who doesn't already have an Autolite Stay Full battery. And the resolution reads, I resolve at the earliest opportunity, that is tomorrow morning, to drive down to my nearest Autolite dealer and get a brand new Autolite Stay Full battery. The battery that needs water only 3 times a year in normal car use. For remember, friends, you're right with Autolite. And remember, too, Autolite means batteries.
Stay full batteries.
Autolite means spark plugs.
Ignition-engineered resistor spark plugs.
Autolite means ignition systems.
The lifeline of your car.
That was To Find Help, an episode of Suspense, here on the Mysterious Old Radio Listening Society podcast. Once again, I'm Eric.
I'm Tim.
I'm Joshua.
That was a listener request from Kira, who had written to us and wanted to know what we thought of that. So, what did we think of that? Let's start with Tim.
I thought it's suspense. Of course, it's great quality, great performances, amazing. Someday we'll probably talk about this episode of Suspense and go, but this is not that day. In particular about this episode, it was so compelling to me to think of it in really modern terms of issues that are very relevant to today that weren't necessarily of the day, of people who don't engage in social cues and things like spectrum, autism. Like, is it difficult to reach out to those people and not be threatened by those people? I'm getting too far ahead of myself, but I really found it interesting.
I think Josh and I both went silent because we were like, wow, that's really an interesting take on that. We may have looked today at someone like that much different than they would then.
Yes. But also balanced with, oh my goodness gracious, why would you ever bring a stranger into your house like that? And,
that's where we live now. Like, I won't answer the door. I don't care what you're at. If I don't know you, and if you're a kid selling band candy, all I do is yell at them through the door and say, "Those days are gone. You shouldn't be outside going door to door. That's dangerous."
Leave it on the porch and go.
Right.
You're like, I could kill you, child. Go away.
Why are you out here? Who let you out here? And I wrote that down in my notes as the idea of this would never happen anymore, where you would hire somebody.
But they address it, and that's what I like with the rumor, Mr. Armstrong, who is not going to go away on his business trip until he sees who's coming. Yeah, he's going to check it out, and he immediately dismisses this kid because he's skinny and little and seems harmless.
Right.
Which then plays into his psychosis, is that he was not allowed to fight in the war, and the fact that people look at him and go, oh, he isn't very strong, has developed this obsession, which is occasionally the creepiest part of the entire thing when he talks about, my hands are strong.
Right.
Touch my hands, Mrs. Gillis.
That's how it ends.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. It's, again, extremely well written, extremely well performed. Well, first of all, it's Barrymore and Gene Kelly, so hard to screw up.
They are really good, and I want to speak to the performance because Akira in her email mentioned that she liked this better than the Frank Sinatra version.
Yeah.
And I went back and re-listened to the Frank Sinatra version.
Which I did not.
That's the first one I had heard. I'd never heard this Gene Kelly version, and she is absolutely right. I'm not just sucking up to our listeners. The performance here is so much better because, for starters, Ethel Barrymore plays Mrs. Gillis with a lot more social concern. I can see why Tim thought of current issues because she's not merely hysterical. She plays fear. She knows her life is in danger. But Agnes Moorehead, as much as I love Agnes Moorehead, slips into sort of sorry, wrong number mode. Right. And it gets really hysterical and sounds kind of crazy herself. And it's really interesting to have this slight sympathetic touch that Barrymore has in this performance. And there's an argument that Sinatra might be a little better in this, in that at the time, you knew Sinatra as a skinny, harmless kid.
Right.
Right? And it's hard to think of Gene Kelly as a skinny, harmless kid, right?
Yeah.
But I think performance-wise, Kelly has a lot more nuance. To Find Help was one of Sinatra's like very early acting roles, and it's pretty one note. He plays it sort of like a psychopathic Eddie Haskell from Leave It to Beaver. He's very polite. He's very civil, and that's part of what's scary about it is very monotone.
Well, I thought Gene Kelly did that too. Like I said, I didn't hear Frank's version, but I thought Gene Kelly was terrifying in his monotoneness and his really odd behavior and very subtle. As I always, when I teach acting, but when I teach the kids, what's scarier? I'm going to kill you, or I'm going to kill you. Right. And what's scarier is, just whispering that in someone's ear.
I can't remember. Somebody pointed out that anything whispered is creepy.
Right. So, and I just thought Gene Kelly
he was
really
good.
nailed it. I didn't think it was Gene Kelly after 5 seconds. I went, I'm not even thinking about that anymore.
Yeah. You
just
can't hear it in his
I don't hear it in his
performance at all.
performance, his voice, nothing.
But that's what's interesting
character.
about this, too, is it doesn't have the usual suspense twist. Howard is Hitchcock's bomb under the chair. In 5 minutes, it's very clear he's a psychopath. It's not is he or isn't he? And within like 5 or 6 minutes into the show, Mrs. Gillis is already like, I'm glad I have a telephone and a dog. She knows too that there's something's not right. So it's not about, is he crazy or isn't he? It becomes instantly about, will Mrs. McGillis survive the next few hours?
I understand the idea of him being sort of a little monotonish, but there was a lot of nuance in there in this character that, depending on tiny little pressures or tiny little influences, you get a wide range of response out of him, of judgmental, feeling judged, lethal, or...
Yeah, well, that's what I was saying. Sinatra's is sort of a one-note performance, whereas we get a lot more depth here from Gene Kelly, in my opinion.
You brought up the idea of her not getting hysterical. I didn't take it as, this poor boy. I took it as a really smart plan on her part. I know what I'm going to do. Well, she's locked in the room with the dead dog, by the way. But I think it was, okay, here's how I'm going to get to this guy. I'm going to be calm. And it was more of a plan than feeling bad for him. But anyway.
That's kind of the plot, is her figuring how to navigate his landscape.
Correct. And I thought the performance by Ethel Barrymore was brilliant in that reality of, okay, here's an older woman who is more experienced, has more knowledge of the world, and I've watched enough Murder, She Wrote. I know what's supposed to happen, that kind of thing. So I thought her performance was outstanding.
Yeah, and I guess I say sympathy because I feel like that comes out in the very end. And I'm going to contradict what I said. I said there is no twist here, and I think there is a twist ending that undermines the usual suspense twist endings. He gives himself up. He doesn't really give himself up. He's dual personality, or he forgets, but you think he's going to be this guy who's going to be waiting for Mrs. Gillis and the phone repair guy in the car ready to like jump out and kill them, and he's just waiting for his ride home, and he's forgotten everything. The twist of like they reach the end of the day and he's like, time to go home. I forgot that I killed your dog, and and there's a softness to her performance, and part of it is self-preservation, like quiet, don't disturb the psycho killer. But I don't know, and maybe this is all in comparison to the Agnes Moorehead version, where she's hysterical for a large portion of it, and this is just really nuanced and really nice.
Well, it was something I took even early on before it's really antagonistic between the two of them. She can see that he is an outsider, that he's...
Yeah, she asks very sympathetically, are you ill, at one point. So that's where that comes across. But then, I mean, she's going to do whatever to survive, once she gets locked in a closet with her dead dog. Yes. So she's also, like you said, very practical. And she's trying to get a code through to the milkman.
All of it. I thought it was not only written well, but her choices in conveying that it was a plan.
Yes.
That she was orchestrating of, okay, here's how we're going to deal with this guy. I think there was also a very unintentional moment of writing that, well, maybe it was intentional, but when she tells, I think it was the milkman, can you give him a ride to town? And I'm thinking, wait, you're just, hey, take this guy into town. Good luck.
Yeah, well, clearly either there's
Jumping him off.
some riding liberties, or else people were much more on the job in this day because, like, her phone is out of service for a couple hours and the phone guy just shows up. We're on hold for 5 hours if we want any sort of help maintaining anything in our houses.
I sort of thought of that, and this might be my impulse to patch things together, of she cues in the milkman of, like, help me. He goes off, and they try to call her, and then it's a result of her trying to get the milkman's attention.
I like that because the milkman and the phone repair guy are in the same union, and they're, like, hanging out together.
It's just back then there was a hub of repairmen, and they
all half a block away
in a barn kind of thing.
Yeah, and they're all drinking milk.
I just want to read to you, speaking of the dog, these are my notes as it was happening. No, not the dog. Don't kill the dog. No, damn it. I hate it when they kill animals and stuff.
And it is that trope that we've talked about before, like dogs and animals can sense ghosts and psychopaths.
Right?
You know, always.
The dog, good foreshadow at the beginning.
They hate them. And mailmen. Yeah. So, again, it throws off the detector.
Right. However, Sarah is a stupid name for a dog. It's just not a dog name. That's a terrible name for a dog.
We can agree that that's not a fair criticism of the script, though. Is it?
No.
So 2 stars. Sarah was a terrible name for a dog.
Would not recommend.
So, suspenseful-wise, this is a common trope. The idea of home invasion, being trapped in your own house. This isn't an uncommon idea for a plot, right? Agree, right? This happens a lot. So the question then becomes, if you're going to do that, does it hold your interest when you've seen it 80 times? Varying forms, but the idea of home invasion and trapped in your house, right? And I generally thought this captivated me throughout the entire thing. I didn't say at any point, oh, this whole thing. The guy gets in the house. It
was a really fresh take on the invader character of he would be dangerous and threatening, which are the same thing. I just said the same thing twice. But then he'd go back to cleaning.
Yeah, and I think he was so unpredictable. Was he going to kill you or just really do a great job cleaning your house?
I love the idea of him cleaning that one spot over and over and over again. It was a really nice piece of writing to bring a lot of character development to what was happening.
And it's that OCD, because right away he gets given some sort of apron at the beginning, and he's like, there are spots on it.
Right.
Yeah. So right away he's obsessed with that, and that follows through the entire thing. And I think that's also what's interesting about it. Even though he killed the dog, and I hate dog killers, by the end when he goes and sits in the car and is waiting to be taken away, he's pitiable, and you don't suspect that at the end.
Sure.
I think you also factor in the war thing, and I think that's something that we need to go backwards in time and think about.
Yep.
Because the original one was 1945, so it's right at the end of the war. When she keeps saying, it's hard to find help, they mean because every able-bodied male is gone or has been killed or is maybe not coming back. This idea of the guilt of people felt who couldn't go fight.
I think we're led to believe that his psychosis or his problems are directly related to not being able to serve.
Yeah, because he says that, when in relation to the dog, he's like, I'm not a coward. A coward would be afraid to kill. He's proving it. So he picks on a dog.
But they also established the reason he was not allowed to serve was because of his mental faculties.
And it's you're right. It's this loop, though, right? And that just feeds it. And that's his new psychosis.
Right. I'm going to pose this question and not give you my opinion, because sometimes when I have opinions like this, you guys will go, what? No, you're dead wrong. That's really a great way to do that, or writing or whatever. So I'm really curious to see what you guys think of that ending.
I thought it was maybe a little more ambiguous than we're letting it be. At the very end, I thought, is he just going to strangle the driver and be on his way? Or is he just going to go peacefully? Which it seemed momentum-wise to be heading towards, we're going to drive you to the police now, and that's going to be the end and resolution that's calm. But he also was perfectly capable of killing his way out of that car.
And it seemed like...
Was he? He only killed what I assume was a fairly small dog based on the description, because she's in a closet.
I'm not
It wasn't a big dog.
But I had the impression he had strong hands.
Yes. I don't know. It's a subtle
I didn't really
thing.
feel them myself, but...
Isn't it the idea that he has forgotten he's done that, the split personality thing or whatever it is, and now he's like, what? No, I'm not. I'm a normal guy. Where are we going? Let's go for a ride. The idea then when he says, I have strong hands, aren't we led to believe at that point, oh, he's going back again? Like he's becoming Do you know what I'm saying? Like, the switch has been flipped again. He's talking about his hands.
I read it as pitiable, which is what I said, where like suddenly you see him and he's repeating the same thing, but in this terribly sad, unthreatening way. He sounds childlike to me. It sounds like the bragging of a child, like when a 5-year-old goes, I'm really strong. And suddenly, when he's no longer trapped in a house with a little old lady and a little dog, suddenly he's sitting in a car. The phone repairman's there, too, to help Mrs. McGillis. And suddenly he's just sitting in the back car waiting for his ride. And he seems so innocent. And that I feel like it's unambivalent. I feel like that's the twist. Is this guy we were scared of suddenly is no longer dangerous. He's just reverted to this sort of childlike state, waiting for a ride home.
Hopefully our complete opposite takes on that have cleared that up for you.
Right. Well, I got the idea that we get introduced to what you were saying, like, oh, what happened? I'm a nice guy. Then he gets in the car, that there's a switch that flips in his head. And the key to knowing when that switch is being flipped is him talking about his strong hands. So I was led to believe that it ends there with the idea, oh, here comes Killer.
Yeah, but
you didn't get that?
I don't believe his hands are superhuman strong. He's got Mrs. McGillis there who seems somewhat able to take care of herself and another guy.
All right, so
and that even if he is like, I'm going to strangle you, they just like slap him in the face.
It feels like one of them after-school specials where we're supposed to discuss what would you do, and they don't give you the ending. Like, why is there no ending to this?
I love it.
I knew
you're wrong, Eric.
I also want to know what's in the briefcase in Pulp Fiction. Like, I don't like not being told.
It's Gene Kelly.
Okay.
He pops out and he's like, I have strong hands.
But I think that
why not end it?
I'm on the
It is an
ambiguity
ending.
side because a character like him. Oh man, grammar. A character like Gene Kelly's is challenging. It's difficult. This is not just a villain that needs to be punished. It's not just a sick person who's never done anything wrong. It's a complicated character, and it's hard to know what's the right thing to do with them because it's hard to know what they're going to do.
That's what I meant when I said it subverts suspense endings. The twist is, this is sort of naturalistic and like real life. It's gray.
Yep.
It was, I think, intentionally anticlimactic.
Right. And you know me. I want beginnings, middles, and ends, and I want wrap it up in a bow.
You want Gene Kelly strangling an old lady in a car.
Yes, but that's for different reasons.
Okay. Fair enough.
No, yeah, but you know what I'm getting at, right? I mean, you could, as much as you don't mind that ending, what I want from you...
I like it. I more than don't mind. Don't mischaracterize.
But you understand my frustration with, like...
I do.
And it seemed to me like, hey, we're at 30 minutes.
See, I don't think it's subtle.
Dick Wolf.
I think it moves in that direction, slowly but surely. Very intentional, like we think the story's going to go one way, and it goes a completely other. She thought for sure she was going to die, and suddenly he's like, oh, wait, it's 5 o'clock. I'm not a killer anymore. Time to go home. And I think that's the shock to me.
All right.
Like, wow, cool.
Right. I'm with you on that.
All right, I think that's time for final verdicts. Then.
I do, too.
I have very strong hands.
You can't see this, listeners, but he just strangled a dog.
I'll vote first. I think it was fantastic. It was suspenseful and fun and intriguing and had me on the edge of my seat. And I think it stands not only the test of time, definitely would rank as a classic as far as I'm concerned. Despite my hating of the ending, I like the discussion it brought up, but it doesn't bother me enough to not say all those wonderful things.
Yes, I agree. It's suspense, of course. It's excellent.
Right.
Even among suspense episodes, I think this one's a classic. And not just that it's classic of its time. I think it's really interesting to think about and listen to in the context of modern life in a way that is different than it was when it was originally presented, which is great. So, yes, I like it. Thank you, Kira.
Stands the test of time. Classic. Done. Boom.
Boom. All right. Well, thank you for listening. And if you'd like to learn more about us, you can go to
GhoulishDelights.com. It's a website, and you can listen to other episodes of this podcast there, as well as learn about live productions we do. We go out in the world and perform live versions of old radio scripts, and it's awesome.
You can also go into iTunes and write a review. I mean, it's great when you rate the show, because you can do that. Just post a rating, but it would be extra awesome if you actually wrote some words about what you thought of the show. Good, bad, otherwise. We love the feedback, and
Random
let
words.
us know. Yeah, random words. Just let your cat sit on the keyboard. That's fine, too.
All right, who's got the next one?
Is it me?
It's you.
All right. Up next, then, we have from the series Murder by Experts, a show called Return Trip. Until then.
Look out!